What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. Gonna be talking to you about a big knife right here, the Cold Steel SR1. And before we get into that, I would ask that if you do like the content that I've been putting out, go ahead and click that little button right there and subscribe, turn on your alerts, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the videos that I'm putting out, whether it's the most recent one or if you just have a comment about anything in general knife related. I certainly would appreciate it. Definitely helps me out. Also, give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. I would definitely appreciate that. Got lots of daily content going on there. But going ahead, getting into this guy right here, what we're looking at is the Cold Steel SR1. So the survival rescue knife is the old, it's based off the fixed blade version of this knife, which is the SRK, which Cold Steel has had for over 20 years or something like that. And so this is the folding version of that. And so let's kind of look at a few specs on this guy right here. It has got an almost 4-inch blade, just shy of 4 inches at 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you can basically call that 4 inches with about a 3.85 inch cutting edge on that clip point blade, flat ground clip point blade right there of S35VN on this one. There is a light version of this, which does not have, this has G10 scales. The light version has a Grivory type, FRN type scale on that, more of a plasticky feel, and it has AUS 10 steel on that one. So a little bit different in the quality, a little bit different in the price, but you know, depending on what you're looking for, they have that option as well. But what I'm going to be focusing on right today is this one right here. So let's make not any mistakes at all. 7 ounces, and that's off Cold Steel's website. I think that's being a little generous. It's probably just a little bit more than that. One of these days I will get a digital scale for the channel as well as calipers and things like that. But we'll go ahead and do some size comparisons compared to a couple other Cold Steels first. So there is the 8010, another Demco design. These are all going to be Andrew Demco designs with a triad lock. We'll get into that a little bit. And then there is a Cold Steel Recon 1. So we're looking at, it's a little bit bigger than the 8010. It's going to be a little heftier as well. And it is going to also be about the same size as the Recon 1. Almost exactly. But as you can see, it's going to be significantly thicker in blade stock than really all 3 of them right there. So we're looking at those. That's the blade stock comparison on the Recon 1 and then the 8010. So it is going to have thicker blade stock than both. It is a big, thick, heavy duty, hard use knife. I know we kind of throw around that term, hard use. Well, honestly, any one of these knives could fall into that category, but this one is probably going to be the biggest and the beefiest. Let's see what else we got. The usual cadre of comparisons. There is the Spyderco Stretch 2 in K390, sporting the micarta right there. And we got other Spyderco. We have the Native 5, so it's going to make the Native 5 look like a snack. Very small compared to the SR1. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have usual Ontario Rat number 1 and D2, one of my favorite all-time budget knives. Still don't think you can beat that, but I think they're made in China instead of Taiwan anymore, but I don't know. We won't get into that conversation today. What else do we have? Oh yeah, the usual Chris Reeve knives. Large Sebenza 21, so much bigger than the Sebenza 21, bigger in the blade, bigger in the handle, bigger all around. And what else did I bring out here? Just for variety's sake, there's a big knife in a much different category, I would say, but it's pretty much the same size as the Spyderco military model. This, of course, is the Sprint Run 52100 with the carbon fiber scale, so it's going to be heavier, thicker, not cut as well, all of those things than that Spyderco. But as far as size goes, overall length at least, you can kind of get an idea of that. And let's just round it all out with the Medford, the big old Medford Marauder H. So pretty much the same size as the Marauder H. The Marauder H is going to be a little bit heavier with its all-TI construction, but it's going to be pretty much the same. Well, actually, I think this is going to be a little bit bigger, thicker on the blade's thickness. But anyway, moving on. Little size comparisons out of the way. This is going to be utilizing the triad lock, Andrew Demco's design. A lot of Cold Steel knives have that lock. Very strong. I'm not going to go into the strength and the pounds of force and everything else that it can withstand, all the pressure that it can take, if it's the strongest folding lock system on the planet or if it's not. It is strong, it is durable, it's not going anywhere. It essentially turns this folding knife into a fixed blade, or at least the next best thing to a fixed blade. But there's plenty of videos that Demko himself does of you know, strength tests on the lock. But suffice it to say, it is probably going to be good enough for any of your needs. You know, kind of looking into what this knife would be for, it's heavy duty. It's a full flat, well, not a full flat grind, but that's a flat ground blade. It's 7 ounces. It's thick blade stock, big thumb studs. What is it for? I mean, this is going to be a hard use outdoor type knife. So this could be a substitute for a fixed blade if you were camping, doing something like that. If you wanted to put something like this in your pack, on your gear, something like that, you can certainly EDC this. It is not the most EDC friendly knife, of course, just based on the size. It's going to take up a lot of space in the pocket. Let me see. I mean, that's kind of your profile against, you know, a Chris Reeve knives, you know, a large 21. That's what it would look like even against, you know, your average Spyderco. You know, the Spyderco might be a little bit taller, but this is going to be certainly much thicker. You know, when you look at that right there, I mean, we're talking crazy difference in thickness, you know. I mean, just much beefier and everything else. Now, you certainly could EDC this if you were so inclined. I have carried it around a couple of times since owning it. But I mean, it probably is not going to be your first choice for the average, you know, casual knife enthusiast or anything like that. This is going to be a little bit too big, a little bit too heavy. The G10 is really aggressive on this, really aggressive. I mean, it's going to be much more aggressive than the Recon 1, certainly more aggressive than that FRN that's on the Ontario. It's just very aggressive. It's almost like an Emerson. It's probably more aggressive than your older Emerson's designs as well. And it's kind of got that thick crosshatch pattern that's in there and everything else. So that's going to be pretty abrasive on your pants and jeans and things like that. And coupled with the fact that this has a really thick steel stock for that pocket clip. So, I mean, I don't know if I could even do a reasonable comparison on these two. I'll try. Where it'll even come out on camera. But this is a thicker stock. I mean, that looks like it's dang near a millimeter thick. It's probably not that much, but it is thick stock, and it is tight. It is really tight. I mean, I've even flexed this out a little bit. I got a screwdriver under there and tried to bend it back, but it is tight. So it's not going anywhere if you put it in your pocket. That's why I would say if you put this in your pack or something like that on a piece of gear, it's probably not going to go anywhere. It's probably going to stay right where you put it and be a very deliberate action when you want to go ahead and deploy the knife. Speaking of action, the action's great. You know, it flicks out. It does take a little bit of a break-in. It's very similar to what I did with my coldsteel 8010, where there's a little bit of grittiness initially in the first, I don't know, couple of dozen deployments of the blade. And then after that, loosen right up. Not a problem. Nothing to it. It drops. I mean, it doesn't drop shut, but the triad lock is one of those things where you get the pressure and it goes down, and then you just kind of close it the rest of the way. You give it a little shake if you want to. It'll go ahead and get closed. But yeah, it goes ahead and it flicks open. It's not like a super fidgety knife or anything like that. It's not going to be your first choice if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a nice action. Certainly nothing to complain about too much. So no reason to really go a heck of a lot more in depth with this. I mean, if something like this appeals to you, then you're definitely looking for a big knife, a bruiser, a heavy use knife, a hard use knife. You've got the choice of this one. You've got the choice of the 8010 Light. I mean, really is. A lot of people may say that, just go for the 8010 Light, because if you're going to be using a hard use type of knife where you're really going to be beating and thrashing on this thing, you're probably going to need to resharpen it, whether you have, S35 VN or AUS 10. You're probably going to end up needing to resharpen the knife after that. So it's possible that you may want to just go and save a few dollars and do the SR1 Light version. But yeah, either way, you probably won't be disappointed. I mean, if you go ahead and you get something like this, you know what you're looking for, and you know what you're trying to get, and you know what you're trying to buy with a knife. So In any case, I'll go ahead and wrap it up without kind of expounding on that any more. So go ahead, like I said, give me a follow if you don't mind. Go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. Certainly do appreciate it. And leave a comment and stay tuned for next time. Thanks a lot.